Good morning and welcome to The Verdict. I'm Kent Myers, and as you can see, Mick Cornett's not here with me today. My partner's off doing some important business and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Well, let's start off with this being our Christmas show. Merry Christmas to you. We're really pleased you join us this couple of days before Christmas and hear what we have to offer today. We think you're going to find it very, very interesting. There's been a lot recently in the news about one of our more important Oklahoma industries, the racing industry, the horse racing industry. It's an industry that has an enormous impact on our economy in Oklahoma. It's very important to us. And today we wanted to bring you a show about what's going on almost as we speak in the industry that could have dramatic effects one way or the other on the folks that own and race racehorses, as well as those who like to watch and occasionally wager on the races. We're going to bring you the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association, Debbie Schauf, to talk to you about racing, particularly in Tulsa, although we will talk about racing in general. We hope you'll enjoy this. It is important to what we do here in Oklahoma and affects a lot of us, either directly or indirectly. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a minute. You're watching The Verdict.
I grew up in a tough neighborhood. There was a lot of drugs and a lot of violence. Really, for me to get away was to focus on artwork. It was a way for me to really cleanse myself so I can deal with all the problems that were going on in school and at home. It kept me from crossing that line.
Our goal is to make sure that the arts are available to all, that our community is awakened by the arts, that our community is touched by the arts.
It's not an organization that's focused on one thing. They're focused on the arts across the board.
Chesapeake knows that in order to have a full and complete community, we have to have a strong arts component.
Now you have people that understand how important that is, and they're really getting involved. It really changes lives, and it changes families. You know, eventually it's going to change generations.
If you need big accounting firm expertise but aren't happy with the value or level of partner engagement from your current national firm, contact Hogan Taylor. Hogan Taylor provides national-level public accounting expertise with high-touch, local partner service in all areas of tax, audit, business valuation, and litigation support. Contact us at hogantaylor.com/The Verdict. Hogan Taylor, big enough to know, small enough to care.
And welcome back to The Verdict. Kent Myers sitting in Mick Cornett's absence today. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. And as indicated in the first segment, we're going to be talking about racing in Oklahoma, particularly quarter horse racing. We have as our guest, the lady I want to introduce right now on my right is Ms. Debbie Schauf. She is the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association. She's been in Oklahoma 16, 17 years as an executive director of this organization. Prior to that time, she served 2 terms in the Kansas legislature as a legislator in the Kansas House. Then she served some time, if you will, working with the Racing Association in Kansas, also with the Pacific Coast Racing Association and with the Texas Racing Association, before we were lucky enough to capture her and bring her to Oklahoma to work on the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association. She works closely on a daily basis with the Oklahoma Horse Racing Commission, and she's kind enough to give us her time on this Christmas show to come tell you about what's going on in her world. Well, Merry Christmas first.
Merry Christmas to you.
And welcome.
Thank you.
I bring you Christmas greetings from Mick Cornett, by the way.
And I'm glad to be here, and you send my greetings to him.
I will do that personally. Well, so glad you're here. Tell us about your association, the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association.
The Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association was formed in 1988, and Prior to that, the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Association represented the quarter horse interests in all the persuasions of quarter horse industry in Oklahoma. But it became very apparent at the time they passed parimutuel that racing was going to be a significant industry in Oklahoma. So some of the racing guys split off from the Quarter Horse Association and formed the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association. A few of the old-time names that were original founders of that, Walter Merrick, Joe Merrick, D. Raper, Mel Hatley, a lot of those guys that were just foundation guys in the quarter horse business. And they incorporated and became the representative for the racing arm, and then worked really hard with the racetracks as they were getting rolling with parimutuel.
Now, who are your members? Are they horse, or are they quarter horse racing owners?
Owners, breeders,
Trainers.
participants, trainers, yeah.
Jockeys?
All segments. We represent, we are statutorily, under the State Tribal Gaming Act, the representative in all matters relating to racing for the quarter horse, paint, and Appaloosa participants. There's another organization in the state, the TRAO, Thoroughbred Racing Association of Oklahoma. They represent the thoroughbred interests, and our organization represents the quarter horse, paint, and Appaloosa interests.
Now, probably our viewers know this better than I do, so I'm asking this question really because I don't know, but although I should. What generally is the season for quarter horse racing, and what is the season for thoroughbred racing in a calendar year?
Well, in Oklahoma right now, we have 3 different racetracks, and we run what they call split meets. So the quarter horses run in the spring at Remington and in the fall at Will Rogers. The thoroughbreds run in the spring at Will Rogers and in the fall at Remington. And in the summer, we all run in the fair meet at Tulsa.
Is Fair Meadows the fair meet in
Yes.
Tulsa? Fair Meadows is the name of the track, I guess, at the Tulsa Fairgrounds?
At the Tulsa County Fairgrounds, yes.
Yeah. How long, how many races do you run in the course of a year from a quarter horse standpoint?
From a quarter horse standpoint, we run 560 races at Remington. We run about 200 races at Fair Meadows.
Wow.
And then we run about 325 races total at Will Rogers Downs.
Well, how many members does your association have?
For the OQHRA, we have 2,300 active voting members.
And how many, I don't know that you've counted the horses involved, but approximately how many racing quarter horses do we have in Oklahoma?
I don't know if I could even tell you that. We had over 2,200 separate horses that started in each of our meets at each of the racetracks in Oklahoma this year.
But those horses wouldn't all be from Oklahoma, though, would they?
Actually, what we find in Oklahoma that between 60 and 70% of all the starters in Oklahoma are accredited Oklahoma-bred horses.
From what other states do we get horses from time to time?
Interestingly enough, we just did a study and we found out that in 2010 we had 35 states and 2 foreign countries. In 2011 we had 39 states and 2 foreign countries. And in 2011 we had 37 states and 1 foreign country.
Wow, pretty widespread then.
Yes.
What is the economic impact in Oklahoma of quarter horse racing?
The economic impact of horse racing together in Oklahoma is the horse industry is about a $1.2 billion industry, and just to segment racing out of that, we're probably over 50% of that.
And that includes both thoroughbred and quarter horse?
Yes, sir.
Insofar as a number of races, number of horses involved, number of participants involved, which is larger, the thoroughbred side or the quarter horse side?
6 out of every 10 horses in Oklahoma are quarter horses.
Now, I have heard it said, and I want you to explain this to our viewers. I know you can because you did it to me off camera before we started, but I've heard it said that McLean County is the horse capital of America, or words to that
Right.
effect. Can you explain, first of all, is that true, and why is it so?
Yes, I believe it is true, and it's because there are more horses per capita in McLean County, Oklahoma than there are in any other county in the United States.
So there are more horses in McLean County than any other county.
Proportionate to the amount of people in that county, yes.
Yeah. When I said per capita, I was assuming you were talking about people in the county. Are there other states in which your members race regularly?
Oh, absolutely. Quarter horse racing takes place in, gosh, I haven't counted recently, but probably 11 or 12 of the racing states. There's about 20 states in the United States that are active racing states, and over half of them support quarter horse racing. Predominant quarter horse racing states, there's about 8 of them. Oklahoma right now enjoys the reputation of being the leading state for the quarter horse racing industry in the United States.
What is the second or third largest participant in quarter horse racing after Oklahoma?
As far as the race meets and the caliber of the race meets goes, it would be California next, and then right there together would be Texas, New Mexico, and Louisiana. Texas actually has more horses, quarter horses per capita than Oklahoma does, but the racing isn't as prominent there because they've had trouble supporting their racetracks in Texas.
We call the horse a quarter horse. Why do we call it a quarter horse?
It's like the difference between a lion and a tiger. They're both the same species, but they're just distinctly separate breeds. And a quarter horse is just a different breed. It's
than the thoroughbred.
Genetically, it's crossed many times with the thoroughbreds. You can breed a quarter horse to a thoroughbred, and the result is a quarter horse. So we definitely have an infusion of the thoroughbred blood, but just by genetics, a quarter horse is a different breed.
In the short, straight track race between a comparable quarter horse and thoroughbred, the quarter horse will win every time.
We're the dragsters, and they're the Indy cars.
They're the marathon runners.
That's right.
That's it. What services does let me ask you about your association. Where are you located?
We have an office at each one of the racetracks, but our primary offices are in Edmond, Oklahoma. And I have a staff of 4, and then we have a full-time lobbyist that works for us that we contract with.
And who is that?
Tommy Thomas.
Mm-hmm. And he works during the legislative session?
He works for us year-round.
Year-round.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we need to take a break now, Debbie, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about what's actually going on almost as we speak in your industry that's been on the front pages of most of the papers. You're watching The Verdict with Debbie Schauf, the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association. We'll be right back.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
They lift, grip, and bear pressure. They carry our state through every season. Hands that simply by doing their job, forge opportunity for nearly 350,000. These are the hands of Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, working sun up to sundown for our economy, our future, for every person who lives where these flags wave.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back. Kent Myers here on the set of The Verdict with Debbie Schauf, our guest for this Christmas show. Merry Christmas again to you. Debbie is the executive director of the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association. She's been talking to us about her industry, and now I want to change the subject, well, it's still racing, but bring it a little more current to what's on the front page of your newspaper and has been for several weeks now, and ask her to talk about, Debbie, what's going on with quarter horse racing in Tulsa.
Well, a few weeks ago, right at the end of November, the Tulsa the Tulsa County Public Facilities Authority, which runs the Fair Board up there, announced that they were going to approve a new naming rights agreement with the Creek Nation for the building formerly known as the Quick Trip Center. And unbeknownst to anybody, that agreement with the Creek Nation to do the naming rights on the Quick Trip Center included a provision that would require Tulsa County to discontinue any live racing at the facility and surrender their recipient gaming license.
Well, what connection would naming a building have with whether or not live racing ought to go on?
And that was exactly our question. And our concern was that even in their meeting and their agenda item to approve the issue, it wasn't stated on the agenda that that was a topic. So nobody knew. The Racing Commission didn't know. The horse industry didn't know. Nobody knew that that was one of the terms of the agreement. They had that in there. They also had a provision that Tulsa County Public Facilities Authority would give the Creek Nation the first right of refusal for any development of the Driller Stadium land over a 2-year period, beginning with the inception of the agreement. We only came to know that because they called their employees together and gave them notice that as of the first of the year, they needed to look for other jobs. They wouldn't be employed anymore. And
at the racetrack? At
the racetrack. And that's how it came to our attention.
You mean you didn't know prior to that calling of an employees meeting? You didn't know that? We had
no idea. Ron Schatz, the director of racing, had signed contracts with us to facilitate a race meet in 2013, and he signed those contracts earlier in October. And
so you thought you were set?
We thought we were set for the year, and then all of a sudden we found out that we weren't. And they never notified the Racing Commission. The Racing Commission had approved their license for 2013, and the order had been issued and sent to Fair Meadows, but they hadn't signed it and returned it yet. And on just a few days before the 1st of December, they got a letter from Ron Schatz telling him that they weren't going to sign their license and they weren't going to run again in 2013.
Well, in our first segment this morning, you described your summer season as being the racing season for quarter horses in Tulsa.
Yes. And
that's the portion of your racing schedule that would be affected by this change, I take it.
Right.
And how would that, if that racing season just was extinguished, how would that affect your members?
Tremendous, a terrible effect. It's 400 races. It's almost a third of the racing that we have all year. The law, when we passed State Question 712 in 2004 by the voters, then in 2005, from then on, Fair Meadows had to run 400 races at their facility in Tulsa County, and the State Tribal Gaming Act and the compact between the tribal entities that are in Tulsa County, which would be the Osage, the Cherokee, and the Creek Nations, set out an exclusivity provision that there would be no gaming by a racetrack in Tulsa County. There would be no competition for the tribes with gaming in Tulsa County.
The tribal casinos.
The tribal casinos. Their gaming would be the exclusive gaming in Tulsa County. And in exchange for that, they were required to make certain exclusivity payments.
Payments to whom?
They made one set of payments, $2 million guaranteed a year to the Tulsa County Public Facilities Authority, and that was designed to offset the lost opportunity financially for them to have a more successful live race meet by offering electronic games like the other racetracks in the state were allowed to do.
Yeah, let's back away from that just a minute and kind of put it in perspective. At Remington Park, and that's the only other one I'm familiar with, at Remington Park you can watch live racing or you can be involved in using electronic games.
Right. That's what State Question 712 did.
Yeah.
At Remington Park, at Will Rogers Downs, and at Blue Ribbon. And it was too little too late for Blue Ribbon. It wasn't enough to save that track and keep it open. But in Oklahoma, basically, State Question 712 allowed those racetracks to do a limited form of gaming, and it also allowed, under a model compact, that every tribe in the state could do the same kind of gaming.
Yeah. So when the agreement was reached not to have gaming other than racing at Fair Meadows, in lieu of having gaming, the tribes were required to...
The tribes within 20 miles of that facility agreed in their compact to make an exclusivity, two sets of exclusivity payments. One to Fair Meadows, which was $2 million a year, and a separate 25% of the net of 400 machines, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $8 million a year, was made to the Oklahoma Horse Racing Commission to be distributed for purse money at the direction of the Two Horsemen's organizations.
Well, now, if this cancellation of racing at Fair Meadows for the summer of 2013 had stood, what would have happened to those payments?
They clearly would not have had to make the payment to Fair Meadows anymore, the $2 million payment to Fair Meadows. We believe they would have still had to have made the payment to the horse industry. Mm-hmm. However, the Creek Nation announced that their position was, because Fair Meadows wasn't racing anymore, they didn't have to pay anybody the money. They didn't have to pay the horsemen their share either. So that, when I say there were really two issues, one was the fact we were losing 400 live races, which is a terrible blow to us, because in our business, like a farmer harvests his wheat and takes it to the co-op and sells it. Well, we raise our product and we take it to the racetrack, and by racing it, and the performance of the horse is our harvest. When they earn money in purses, that's how we make our money in the industry. And
what in purses, dollar-wise, would that have done if racing did not take place in 2013?
Just in Tulsa alone, we distribute about $4.5 million of purse money a year.
And that would have gone away.
In 2012, this year, we paid 67% of that $4.5 million to Oklahoma owners, people with Oklahoma addresses.
Well, you heard this announcement take place. It surprised you, and then what did you do?
We pulled out all the stops. We hired an attorney to look at the legal aspects because we believed it was a breach of contract because of the contracts they'd signed with us. We also rallied the horse industry, the horsemen and women and the vendors and the support businesses that are involved in racing, and we asked them to contact their legislators and contact the governor, asked the governor to enforce the provisions of exclusivity in the compact to see that the tribes paid, and we asked Tulsa County, the county commissioners and the Fair Board to reconsider their action.
And then what did they do?
Well, it's interesting. They did reconsider their action on December 6th and affirmed it and upheld it and told us there would be no racing. However,
that's not the end of the story.
After that meeting, they got to reading the contracts that they'd signed with us and doing a little more research. And unfortunately, I think maybe the Fair Board members didn't have all the information. Their staff hadn't got it all together to them. And they found out that there were some real legal issues, breach of contract issues and public opinion issues, some maybe violations with open meetings disclosures and open records disclosures. And so they called a meeting, a special meeting on December 12th to reconsider their action. And at that meeting on December 12th, they rescinded their earlier naming rights agreement. They rescinded their letter saying that they wanted to surrender their racing license for the balance of 2012. And they voted to approve and sign the orders granting them a 2013 racing license.
So in the interest of time, it got reversed and there will be racing in 2013.
There will be racing in 2013.
We don't know what's going to happen after that.
We don't know.
Well, congratulations to you and your association, and thank you so much for giving us your time today. We've been visiting today with Debbie Schauf, the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association, about a recent development that had her running pretty fast as one of the quarter horses, I suspect. Well, congratulations to you. Merry Christmas to you and your association members. You're watching The Verdict. I'll be right back in just a few minutes.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love. But sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
I really think people are so unaware of the number of kids waiting just in Oklahoma. And I think if more people knew that those children were out there waiting, I think that just by the way we live our lives and the people we talk to, that maybe we can help encourage adoption from Oklahoma.
You will always be Mom and Dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Thanks to Debbie Schauf for joining us today, and Merry Christmas again to you folks. We really hope you have a wonderful holiday. A couple of websites, Oklahoma Quarter Horse Association.com and ours, theverdict.tv. Merry Christmas. See you next week.